Hi boys and girls, welcome to Reading Workshop for today. For this lesson, you're just going to need a few things. The first thing is a book that you have already marked up with Post-its. So this should be a book that you used for the previous 2 days of Reading Workshop, meaning that you have Post-its after each section. The second thing you will need is more Post-its or paper strips if you don't have Post-its, and something to write with. Other than that, you should be good to go. Grab your materials and let's get started. Earlier this week in my mini lesson, I talked about how when I'm eating a piece of chicken, I don't just try to get the whole thing in my mouth in one bite. I cut it up into manageable pieces and I take small bites so that I can make sure that I enjoy it and that I can digest it. So I compared that to reading, right? I said that we need to break up our nonfiction books into smaller, manageable parts to make sure we understand each individual part. So today what we're going to talk about is how after you break it up into those parts, how you can put it all back together and understand what the whole book is about. Because we don't want to think about each little section as its own book, right? All of the sections come together and represent one book. So today I want to teach you that readers don't just read each page or section of their book separately. They gather information across an entire book and they think, how does this page go with the pages before it? Or maybe they want to pause and think, how does this whole book go together? That's what we're going to be working on today, taking those parts that we created earlier this week and bringing them back together to understand, what does the author want me to learn? All right, boys and girls, so like I mentioned, today we're taking those individual pieces, the sections from this book, and we're bringing them back together to understand what the whole book is about and what the author wanted you to learn. So, as you can see, I went through and I finished adding Post-its to all of my pages, not all of my pages, sorry, each of my sections. As you can see here, I did every single one till the end. So now that I've thought about each section individually, I'm going to start thinking, how can I bring these sections back together? Now you have a couple of choices here. You could choose to take out all of your Post-it notes from your book and look at them. When you take them out, you want to take them out in order so that you can really see what happens in the order that it happens in the book. If you don't want to take them out, you can keep them on the pages and just keep flipping through the book. I'm going to take them out of the book because I think it'll make it easier for you to see what I mean. So, I'm going to go to the first page. I used a strip for this one. I'm keeping them in order too so that I can be sure that I don't get confused and I make sure that the information sort of goes together. So I'm going to take all of these out. My book had quite a few sections. Yours might have more sections. Yours might have fewer sections. That's okay too. As long as you were stopping to jot and you made a plan, that's what's important. Okay, so some important questions to ask yourself about your book when you're trying to determine the key details and really put that story together are these. This one here says, who or what is it about? What is your book about? Or who is your book about? This one says, what is happening? What's happening in the story that you're reading? When and where. So some books focus more on a when, some more on a where. You don't always have to do both. You can if your story includes both, but many stories just include one or the other. This one says, why did it happen, or why is it important? One or the other, you don't have to say both. And how does it work? So, we're gonna take a look at these. I'm gonna be switching back and forth between the two to help me. So we're gonna start off with who/what is it about? So I'm gonna take a look at my notes. I talk about Venus flytraps quite a bit. Then we start talking about other meat-eating plants like sundews, butterworths, North American pitcher plants, California pitcher plants. So we're not just talking about one, but we're talking about multiple meat-eating plants, right? When I first started this story, I thought it was going to be all about Venus flytraps because there were quite a few pages about it, but it doesn't only talk about that one thing. That would be one specific detail. It actually talks about all kinds of different meat-eating plants. So I'm going to put I think that describing what this is about by saying various plants that eat bugs makes sense, right? That's what a meat-eating plant is. Okay, this next one here says, what is happening? So I'm gonna look at my notes again. I'm noticing in many of my notes, I talk about the plants turning the bugs into a soup or a juice, right? The plants dissolve inside of those meat-eating plants, and they turn into a juice that the plant is able to absorb. I see that on pretty much every one of my pages. So I might put plants absorbing bugs for nutrients. So what's happening for all of these plants, the Venus flytrap, the butterworths, the pitcher plants, they are all dissolving the bugs so that they can absorb the nutrients. They do it in many different ways, which would be more of a specific detail, but if we're just thinking about the main ideas, this is a great way to explain it. Okay, the next one says when or where. So when or where is this happening? Well, in this book, they don't really focus on when, but there's lots of explanations of where. There are plants that grow all over the world, right? I'm gonna put I know that North American pitcher plants come from North America because it said it in the book and it's even in the name. Okay. Why did it happen, or why is it important? So why is it important that we know these things? Well, it's important because it keeps plants growing, right? It helps our plants grow. They eat. It's important. I'm going to talk about important. You might even think about some other knowledge that you already have about plants and the earth, and you could even say they're part of the ecosystem. We don't want them to starve and die. Okay. So those are both great answers. I focused on why it's important. You could also talk about why something happens. The last one says, how does it work? So every nonfiction book is going to be teaching you about how something works. So you want to give like a one-sentence explanation. If somebody said, how do meat-eating plants work? What would I tell them? So for my answer, I'm going to put plant catches, I'm writing this in note form. Plant catches bug Bug gets dissolved. Plant gets nutrients. Okay, so I used my notes that I have here to help me figure out what's most important. And remember, when we're learning about key details, we're not talking about every interesting thing that happens in the story. Those are fun things to remember, and it's so important for your comprehension that you do understand those parts. But the most important thing is the key details, the things that you see across the whole book, what the author really wants you to take away when you think about this book. So, what I would like for you to do today during your reading time is to take out your Post-it notes. Like I said, you can choose to lay them all out in order, or you can choose to just keep flipping through your book. It's your choice. And I want you to create these same Post-it notes. Who or what is it about? What is happening? When/where, or when or where? Why did it happen? Or why is it important? And how does it work? So you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Post-it notes, each with those names at the top. I want you to take a look at your notes and see if you can use them to help you answer these questions and understand the key details. This is how we bring the book back together after we've taken it apart to make sure that we understand. All right, boys and girls, I'm so excited to see some of your work. Please be sure to upload a picture of these Post-it notes when you're done. If you can get them all into one shot, that's great. If it doesn't include all of them, that's okay. We just want to see a sample of your work. All right, have a great rest of your day. Good luck. Happy reading. Bye.